Today, I have co-host Kyle Thompson, but I have a special guest, a land investor, a young land investor at that, who started in 2022. But he's got a lot of deals under his belt. We're going to have a good land conversation, hopefully make some people that invest in houses. So if you like that, stay tuned for today's episode with Clay Hepler.
Let's hive, baby.
Let's hive. Let's go. So you started in 2022. You're a very young, new investor. So let's talk about it. What got you into land specifically? Because a lot of people, they kind of fall into it, and I think you're going to have a creative story for this answer. So,
For sure. Yeah. I got into land because of necessity. My wife called me the day before Thanksgiving in 2022 and was hysterically crying and told me that she got laid off and that her company's gone under. She's not getting paid for the entire month of November.
oh,
Her company was a developer, and they thought that they were going to get a big round of investment capital to float the company because it's kind of like a developer tech company.
okay.
And it just went under. And so at that point, I was buying apartment buildings and selling some of them now, actually. I can go into my not a big fan of apartment buildings at this point, especially the vintage that I bought them at. But, you buy apartment buildings and you get sold this really awesome dream of, hey, passive income, you buy these apartment buildings, high cash flow, no problems, no issues, bigger pocket stream, right? And the reality is when you buy apartment buildings that are 150 years old and there's CapEx, there's expenses, and you have a cast iron sewer line or a terracotta sewer line that costs $50,000 to excavate and replace, that cash flow that you thought you were going to have, it gets extinguished. And so I owned a ton of these smaller multifamily properties, triplex, 6-unit, duplex. Didn't own enough that it was a critical mass, right? I at that point, I think I had like 85, 90 units.
Okay.
Like that's not enough to have an own in-house property management company.
Yeah.
And it was all scattered site. So it wasn't really like efficient. Like everyone talks about, all the multifamily guys talk about, under one roof or in the same general area. But we had a ton of smaller properties. And so it was super inefficient to manage and expensive to manage. And so my wife loses her job, and we have a wedding to pay for that we paid for ourselves because our parents didn't have enough money. We had to pay for our life. We had an Airbnb in Colorado that, thank God, I sold last year. That was a 5-figure mortgage, and I had to make money. And so I had experience in the wholesaling house flipping world. Before that, I went and worked with, the reason why I got into real estate, I went and worked with like a local guy, mom and pop guy, like yourself, successful guy, have younger guys working for you, right? That are interested in learning the business, right? And so your people like that are just magnets. So I got attracted to this guy. I said, I'd love to come work for you. I went and worked for him. We built that wholesaling and house flipping business. We were pretty successful at it too. But the reason why I didn't go back into that was because I thought that I was going to move to that Airbnb that I talked about to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That I was going to move back. And I was like, I don't think I can do this remote business. And so I was like, I want to kind of do something that was more land specific, or that was more like real estate specific, excuse me. And I already had the skill set of like sales and marketing. I like knew how to build sales teams. I understood how to find properties. I understood that whole process. And land was like this blue ocean. Like you go down to RIA or a local meetup, you got multifamily guys down there. You got industrial guys, maybe. You have self-storage bros. You have house wholesalers and flippers, but they're like no land investors. And so I said, I must be the smartest guy in the world because no one's doing this.
Yeah.
And so I went and took a couple of courses, and I got into land investing and hadn't looked back since then.
You're very young. How old are you by chance?
27.
27. Okay. So you have a lot of experience. When did you start that initial working for the wholesale company when you were younger?
Well, to be fair, I dropped out of college. So
You slacker.
Yeah, right. I know. It's weird. You're sitting in class and you're listening to this person talk about like economic relationships between the United States and Costa Rica or wherever. And you're like, this person's never been in a diplomatic meeting in their life. How can they teach me anything?
Ooh.
right? So long story short, dropped out of college when I was a junior spring. And so that's kind of why I have a little bit more time in the professional world, because I didn't finish up my degree.
How'd your parents take that?
My dad is like very highly educated, but my mother never graduated college. Like she dropped out too. And so my parents were like super accepting. It was my father-in-law that was, kind of a, jerk about it. So, but I mean, he loves me now, so it's all good.
That's all good. You've come back as the prodigal son, as the winner.
I've come back as a winner. He's from Midland, Texas, man.
Okay.
So, he's from ranch country. That's why that was the inspiration behind the whole, my brand, my podcast brand, my land letter, my newsletter, the accelerator. It's all land, man. And being a Texas guy, that it's all those landmen are out there. And that was the inspiration behind it.
Yeah. It's a fun business. I kind of want to pivot to I'm making fun of house people and multifamily people a little bit, because I think everybody thinks they're right till they invest in land. No comment? Come on, man.
Well, I thought you were going to keep going. To be fair, I thought you were going to keep rolling. I didn't think it was going to be a one-liner. You just kind of dropped that one-liner and just kept going. I'm like, this guy's going to go on. He's about to tee off. Like, here's a deal that I people ask me all the time, like, what's the difference between wholesaling and flipping houses and land? I mean, from a like operational perspective, land is way easier. The type of land deals that you do are a little different than, my type of land deal, the big ranch subdivision, stuff like that. Like, that's like candy from a baby. In terms of like way bigger margins, way bigger numbers, and then, the owner financing portfolio, like that's really awesome. But I think as a general rule, like any business has its benefits and drawbacks.
Yep.
Like household, like I analogize like land flipping and house wholesaling, like they're very similar, but it's like skiing and snowboarding, right? House wholesaling is like skiing. It's much easier to learn, like it's much easier to get into, but it's harder to master, right? It's harder to get to real scale, like critical mass, like making like multiple seven figures. And with land investing, it's kind of harder to kind of understand. You're like, what areas am I going to target? What's a sewer line? Some of these more technical terms that are just like a house is kind of a house, right? And there's so many more people talking about houses. But once you get into land investing, like, you and I are at, and Kyle, I'm not sure where you are, but the mastery of it is so much easier, right? Because you have the core fundamentals, and the ability to scale is so much easier, because it's just a bigger acreage piece of dirt. And so I always use that analogy, even though we like to shit on the house people. And I'm happy to do that. It's kind of like that,
No, it's a good analogy. I like the diverseness, and I think people listening to this, you have a lot of experience in diversity from doing wholesaling houses and multifamily, and now land. I can't say I've been doing land my whole life. I have no experience with this. This is why I have, whenever the guests come on, I have the opportunity to interrogate somebody. I want them to say it, not.
Yeah, and to be fair, like there's a lot of things like that I was just talking about, like with apartment buildings or houses or like in general, like there's just so many things that can go wrong.
Absolutely.
And so that's like, I think that's the biggest thing, which is why it's like harder to scale and harder to master. Like as soon as you get to a certain level, managing the contractors, understanding sort of if it's a winter, like northern state, which is where I live, right? I don't live in Texas, cold snaps, things like that, pipes can explode, older buildings. There's so many more things that are really just more difficult to manage. Not that it's impossible. I mean, there are plenty of people that have really successful multi-7-figure, 8-figure businesses, but I think the path to scale is just clearer in land.
No, definitely. I think the easiest transition was moving from houses to land. I think like houses is such a, like once you start doing some deals with single family wholesaling and flipping, number one, you get a little bored. I don't know why, you just get a little bored. But number two, when you move from houses to land, it feels so much more simple. You don't got to leave the house very often. It's easier to get boots on the ground because you don't have to like try to get access to a house or like break shit down and stuff. So I think, yeah, like you said, land is a lot easier to scale. It becomes it's a lot easier to put your foot in the door with houses because number one, everyone's talking about it. The information you can consume, it's out there. There's so much information you consume on housing, but when you hear about land, it's like you don't really know what to consume yet because it's not the blue ocean. So that's kind of where we step in.
Right. And one other thing with land that you know, I'm obviously a land fan, right? Like I think it's way better than houses and multifamily. But one thing about land is it can be very illiquid. So if you pick the wrong market, it's really illiquid. I mean, when I talk about liquid, I'm talking about decades.
Yeah.
But some people buy these pieces of land and they have them for decades because they can't get rid of them. They bought the wrong piece of land. And so that's one thing that's sort of the disclaimer. Now, if you do the right research, you do the right market research, you understand your markets, then that's not an issue, right? But that's something that we were all talking about at the beginning of this call, right? We were talking about the sell-through rate of houses. Like in DFW, I know DFW is getting hit hard. Florida's getting crushed. And we see that the market, the national market, some of these hotter markets are getting really hurt. But I'm seeing also in my land, I'm in a couple of different states. I'm seeing some of my land holdings take a little bit longer to sell. And others, I'm seeing them sell really quickly. And it's not a price point thing, right? It's really a function of the market. And that's one thing, with land that we're talking about, the harder to master component of it. Well, if you don't know your market, you don't know the products that people are actually looking for, right? Because in one market outside of DFW, you could say, hey, I know people love the 10-acre. They love these 10-acre plots. And maybe they might like a 20-acre more than 10, and the 20 acres go for 30% more price per acre, and they sell 40% faster. That's one thing that you really have to understand in land, or your land will be sitting. I know you have a lot to say there, Daniel, but I mean, that's been my experience.
Hey, if you say it, I agree because I already know. I already know these things. So when somebody else says it, it solidifies and confirms my bias, and I'm with it, man.
Clay, what are you doing right now for marketing on dispositions? And let me use a two-pronged question. So, what are you doing right now for your marketing on dispositions, and what are you seeing works well when things are slow? Like, what do you need to do to ramp things up?
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, I would actually pose that question for you guys. I can tell you what I've done, but our marketing is very different than, Daniel and I were on a call a couple weeks ago and chatting about a little bit more about his strategy, and we rely on brokers. So our marketing constraint and the success of our marketing is completely relied on our broker partners. And so you get a good broker, they move that shit quickly. And if you do not, you got to try a new broker. But we're not like cross marketing through Facebook or any of these other platforms at this point, because historically the brokers have really helped us market these things well. Who knows where that'll be in the future, and I'm always open to learning more, but at this point that's really the main strategy for us.
Okay.
No, it works. I think it works. I think it works if you work it right. We're kind of unorthodox on that part, and we use a lot of tertiary channels to push it, and that's kind of what we do. So it is what it is. But let's talk about markets. Are you in multiple states? Because I know dealing that in multiple states can get a little difficult. What states do you like investing in, and what are your favorites?
Yeah, I would say that I'm in many states, and I don't have a preference of states that I like. I really focus more on counties.
Okay.
So, because a core part of our business is the buy for 80, sell for 160, buy for 100, sell for 200. That's the core part of our business. It's really us moving into these markets that are more county specific. Like I can hit Michigan, I can hit Minnesota, I can hit Wisconsin. And what we're looking for is that sell-through rate. Like the healthiness of the market is really where we're going because of the amount of mail that we're doing and marketing that we're doing outbound every month. We are constantly shifting different markets. Now we're re-hitting markets about 4 times per year, but still the quantity of markets that we're used, we're South Carolina, Georgia. I mean, every big market. I've done some stuff in Alabama. We've touched them. But really what we're looking for is we're zoning in on that sell-through rate to see about the health, the speed of the market.
No, I love this. Okay, so this is a conversation I have. There's so many land investors that teach like, oh, just pick somewhere random and pick a lot size and come have to go after that. I hate that land education, that push. My analogy is more to yours, where it leans where I want to buy and target where people want to buy it, and that's the whole speed of the marketplace. Because, like you said earlier, land is very liquid. You don't want to be stuck holding the bag in your timelines or due diligence or cash. If you put cash into the deal, you don't want to be stuck holding the land because it's very liquid. So my synopsis is you want to buy where people want to buy, and that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, and I love that philosophy. I mean, in order to be really successful in this business, you kind of need to focus on two core things, right? You need to focus on where you're buying, right? Because there has to be demand. Yep. And the demand sells itself. So if you buy a good track in the middle of Dallas, like, you're going to sell that shit. I mean, period. It doesn't matter what the market conditions are. If you find a good track and you buy it for an under market value and you sell it for a market value, you're going to make money. And that's like 80% of the battle. After that, it's really about building a good sales process, right? As competition inherently increases in any business, competition over time goes up. It doesn't matter if you're in land, it doesn't matter if you're multifamily, it doesn't matter if you're in a service business or tech business. Competition increases over time. And the differentiator is really sales. So if you have a good sales team, a good sales process, a good understanding of sales in your local market, those are the two core levers that you can pull, and that's the 80-20. If you find the right markets and when leads calls in, you can convert those leads, you're in a really good position in order to be successful. Everything else is sort of like secondary, third, tertiary to those two things.
No, so county specific wide, what's your buy box as far as like property values? Because I know that's a other big differentiator with land guys is they kind of go. Some people they have like their sweet spot of maybe 6 figures to 250 or 650 or 6 figures to $500,000. What is your like buy box sweet spot, and what do you avoid?
Yeah, so at this point, we're crystallizing our criteria, but we're looking for anything that we can make more than 25 G's on. At this point, that's sort of the minimum that we're going to look for. But there's no buy box criteria at this point. We will eventually graduate into, hey, we're only going to look at X amount of deals. But for the time being, we want to build the reps in the market, the internal marketing intelligence to hit all these different lower price properties, medium price properties, so that we can get a lot of reps in there. Because I'm building a lot of my team, a lot of my process to scale into those larger deals. The Hepler land holdings of 3 years in the future is going to be very different. Like where we're going is very different with where we are today. But this middle market strategy is reliable. It's predictable. It is consistent, and it produces real cash quickly. And so I don't want to give up on that strategy at this point, because that's going to enable us to recycle our cash in order to scale into those bigger properties. Because, as soon as you go from a lower market strategy, flipping desert squares to middle market, there's a time delay of success, right? When you're learning that market. And so if you're going from middle market to higher market, you can't just say, I'm going to replicate this exact thing here. It's a different type of seller. It's a different type of buyer. It's a different type of process. And so I don't want to give up on my core process, as I'm transitioning into those larger properties.
I'm really glad you said this, because this is a thing we did. We did that transition from middle market to larger market, and we had no deals. We had no deals, but we had like 3 to 5 deals for like 6 months. It was like stale.
That's right.
Because we had that transition period, and that transition, it hurt during that transition period. Oh man, it was crazy. But now that we've been in that, we kind of transitioned smoothly. Stuff's just closing, and it's all big stuff because it's all stuff we kind of built up that timeline, and it kind of rolled into its thing. But that transition period was rough. It was extremely rough.
It's very rough because you don't know what it takes to build the consistent, reliable, predictable results. But now it's obviously you do. And so now it's like, okay, I wish I would have started here 5 years ago, but you have to gradually get there instead of just going right in there, or it's going to be feast or famine. You're going to be like a developer that, developers are like, I have one deal a year. I might make $7 million on this one deal, but if it doesn't close, I'm screwed. And I never want to put my family in that position. And so that's why we're still crushing the middle market.
Yeah.
Are you raising money right now, Clay?
For what specifically? Raising money to place for in deals?
Yes, in deals.
Yep. So we raise, I mean, I'm constantly raising money. It's like the biggest one of the, right? Like it's one of these constraints in our business, right? Money in deals, right? And so I'm always raising money.
It's always a push-pull. Deals money. It's a push-pull always. You can't like lean towards one direction rather than the other. Because well, actually, I would say when you have the deals, you kind of control. You can kind of control the game a little bit when you have the deals, especially if you have deals and the terms. If you have deals and terms, and I don't know, are you using creative finance right now in your business?
No. I'm not using creative finance, and that's something that I really want to add to my repertoire. We're buying everything pretty much cash. We're doing some double closing. So if you consider that to be creative,
yeah,
I think that is, creative enough. But we're not using any creative financing. But like I know that those that can use creative financing and over the next couple of years, I think are really going to be the differentiators, right? As the market matures, being able to do that and make that delta between I'm buying it for X amount and getting the interest rate here and then selling it for 6, 7, 8 points higher and a higher price. That's a beautiful situation there.
Well, we also, when you're making all those offers with agents and sellers and everything, and then you start to teach people about creative finance, you start to prime sellers and agents to hear that. And it's like a little bug in their ear. And then they start to be open to it over time. And that's how I think creative finance, and especially with land, is going to start to really open up. Because, I mean, I only use cash unless it's already sitting at a good price on the market. But really, even if it's sitting at a good price, I'm exhausting creative finance, like just because I want to hold the bag I want them to hold the bag for me.
So you're saying you're buying all your deals on the market?
For the most part, we pick stuff off the market here and there, wholesalers, and maybe sometimes direct to seller from other stuff. But I mean, most deals are on the market for us.
So Dan, I mean, this, I don't know if this is appropriate to ask on a podcast, but do you guys work together?
He's my acquisitions.
Oh, that's what I was saying. I was like, yeah, like I've never bought a deal off the market.
We had a really good deal we just did, and we bought it in May for $485. We sold, it was 180 acres. We sold 66 of it 3 weeks later for $315. And what I didn't post on social media is that we got it for $40K down.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible.
Sometimes me and Anthony call it, we have to reverse our ROI because it sounds implausible. It sounds unbelievable and implausible, and people think we're crazy. I'm like, no, this is. I got the HUDs. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
That's incredible, man. So are you financing that? Did you buy that creative finance?
I bought it creative finance. It was a 30-day due diligence with $40K down. So we were already marketing it during the 30 days. We closed on it. We found a buyer pretty quickly that closed really quick again. So on that deal, all the buyer one proceeds went straight to the seller. So we put $40K down, listed it on the MLS. Somebody came in 66 acres, bought it for $35. We only need to sell one more lot to knock out the seller, and then we're pretty much in this deal with like $10,000. And we'll probably make like $300,000 to $400,000 on it.
How will you make $300,000 to $400,000?
Because we sold a third of the lot, a third of the 180 acres.
Oh, I thought you said 100. I'm sorry. I'm totally messed that up. I thought it was 66 of 100.
No, it was 66 of 180. So we sold a third of it for almost the full purchase price.
That's some cheap dirt.
Some cheap dirt.
Texas, there's some seriously cheap dirt. Some of the markets that I work in, there's a lot more. I don't know if it's competition. Maybe it's a limiting of belief, but picking the deals off the market, it's really the prices. It's like 100 acres for $1 million, or 100 acres for $2 million, and sellers not willing to do the financing.
A lot of what we do is just ask for extended escrows. That's the easiest hack. 10, 20,000 an acre. Generally, everything we're buying is 20,000 an acre or less. Mostly everything. We have some deals that break that, but generally it's 20,000 an acre or less. So what our thesis on this is that when you get to a higher price point, it's harder to move larger properties. So if we stay under that 20,000 or less per market, we can exit at a variable 250 to 400 grand exit on a 10 acre tract, which is a good price point
in your areas.
Yeah, in general, anyway.
Yeah, some of the areas that I work in that would not sell.
Yeah.
Well, typically anything over 250 starts to move a little bit slower.
Okay.
Is what we're seeing.
Yep.
So even in hot areas, it's like even if you have some comps at 30 an acre for a 10 acre lot, like we still underwrite it no more than 25 an acre because we want it to stay liquid.
Yep.
We want to undercut the market. So like if the market's calling for 20 an acre, we want to sell it for 15 to 18 an acre or something. We want to undercut that market.
So your goal is to basically sell it at 20% of market value.
Yeah, we want to move the inventory
20% below market value.
Yeah, I would say 20% below market value for what the market calls for, just so we can try to move the inventory quick.
Because speed is the game.
Yeah. And that's why we get extended escrows, is if we're selling stuff, like if we're picking stuff up, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, and then we have 6 months to market the property, then a lot of times we just double close, and then, we don't have to raise the full amount of money. So, but it also tells us, like, let's say we have 6 months to close, it tells us where the market's at too, like, because we get marketable titles. So if we get marketable title and, the market's not moving and our marketing, it's just not doing well. We have drone footage, everything's looking good on our marketing end, but we're just not getting any traction on it. Then it kind of tells us where the market's at. Like, hey, we need it cheaper, or it's just not moving right now.
So what you do 60 days of escrow of due diligence?
Depends on the deal. I mean, like for example, we locked 38 acres up for 4.5 months, and it's only 3 pieces of inventory. So we did a 60-day option for like $2,000, and then we have like 4.5 months to close. So we have 4.5 months to basically market the property before we know if it's like a killer deal.
But this is on the market.
This one was right off the market, yeah.
So how is a broker going to be okay with you marketing on the market?
Well, you asked for it.
You ask for it, and they ask why, and I say, well, we're land investors, and we create inventory, so we need to kind of scream to the world what we're doing. Hey, we're creating ranchettes. We're creating affordable housing. We're creating the dream. We're basically selling the agent a dream, which is true because people, it's unrestricted ranchettes that we can kind of sell the dream to. So that's why it works so well. And the cool agents are good agents. They understand the game. A lot of the times it does kind of overlap if we do it on the MLS, but we can market everywhere else. I mean, if it's not on land.com, we can put it on land.com or on all these other websites. So then, we're cross-marketing it everywhere we can without trying to overlap and cause confusion.
Okay. It sounds unbelievable, but I mean, I know you guys do it.
You see what I'm saying? It's unbelievable, okay? Like I have to reverse it sometimes. Even you're like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, because I'm in this business, and it's pretty crazy that you guys do that, right? That brokers are okay with that. There's so many people that push back against wholesaling or option contracts. Like people hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny. But let's jump a little bit into what price per acre you're normally buying stuff in general, because I think like we might have that sweet spot. Like for us, it's like 20,000 or less. You might be at whatever. I don't know what your numbers are. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say probably like between 5.5 and 8.
Okay.
That's usually where we're at with things.
5.5 to 8. No, dude, anything.
That's where we're buying.
Okay, and you're exiting at that 10 to 16.
Yeah. 10 to 14, 10 to 16.
No, that's a really great price point. It's a really great price point. There's a lot of inventory at that you can still find great deals. There's a lot of inventory like that. You can still find great deals.
Yep.
So you said you did 100 deals in 2 years. What's your team look like? Acquisitions, dispositions?
Yeah, so we got 8 people on the team, 4 in acquisitions right as of now.
Okay.
And then we have a data analyst, data scrubber, an SDR, sales development rep, and then kind of another person in our marketing department. So a total of 8 plus me. So that's the team size. And we might skinny it out a little bit. Might skinny it down to 6 people, 7 people, something like that. But for the time being, that's sort of the structure.
Okay. 8 people. Are they all US based or virtual, or
2 US based and the rest are virtual?
Okay. You've got a very virtual team. You got a virtual team,
Yep. A lot of the stuff that the closers are the US based, right? Closers are US based, and I find that I tried to do the VAs for the closing, and the difference between a VA and a US based closer that's really good. Like one of my closers is in Austin, Texas. He's a freaking beast. He's an ex-solar guy, and he is just really good. Solar guy was a door knocker for Vivint. I mean, he's an animal, and he's like so much better than the VAs. It's not even funny, and he's way more expensive in terms of the commission structure.
Yeah,
of the VAs, but
it's worth it.
It's so worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the killers on acquisitions and negotiations, they're very hard to find. When you find them, you hold on to them and you try and incentivize them to stay, and you try and keep them around as much as you can, because they change the dynamic of your business when you don't have to. Are you still doing active acquisitions yourself, since you're still
not really? I mean, I will jump in. Like I locked up a deal this past week. I love the deals. I love getting in and locking deals up. I mean, it's just, I love it so much. I honestly, I could do that all day.
Yeah,
I could do it all day. So I will go in for more complicated deals. Like this deal was an 85-acre deal that the seller wanted 4,800, and we're like, we could probably sell it for 9, but the seller was giving us a lot of issues in terms of like qualification issues and like roadblocks, and my closer couldn't handle it, and so I had to jump in and give it the old owner treatment and close a deal. So we just locked that thing up.
So you're still jumping where needed, but what does your normal day-to-day stuff look like? Because I know what I do. I still like the action sometimes.
Man, I love the action. So at this point, like the last 2 or 3 weeks, my day-to-day has been pretty different than what it will be. But I know you know this. I'm launching the Landman Accelerator, which is a land course that's specifically tailored to my mid-market strategy and how to succeed in that way, how to build a scalable business in that way. And so a lot of it's been putting the groundwork out to build the content around that, build a community around that, and all the content around the funnels and bringing people in and qualification and all that stuff, building another sales process, marketing process for that whole business, which is exciting, but it's like really time consuming. And so I'm going to be done with that here probably in the next week or so. Yeah. And then I'll go back to, I do a lot of stuff with content. It helps me get investors. So I do a lot of, morning work with content or building systems, looking over KPIs and talking with investors. And then I will be spending more time then at that point, finding other acquisition routes for our team and leveling us up into a larger cap strategy. That'll be over the next 2-3 months as we transition. That's going to be my core kind of day to day, what it would look like. Plus being a dad to a 10-week-old.
Woo! Congratulations.
How about you? What's your day to day like?
It's been crazy lately. It's been crazier than normal. I spend 3 to 5 hours a week doing this stuff. This is fun. I really enjoy this. I enjoy conversations with my guests, and it's been an interesting thing. I I have my mornings with my kids and family, and then I try and work afternoon to evening. But lately it's been getting crazy. We've gotten a lot into more development projects, so we've been talking to lenders and city. Like we had a city meeting this morning on a project where was that this morning or yesterday, Kyle? I don't remember.
That was yesterday.
Okay, that was yesterday. See. Oh man, it's been crazy the last 7 days. I'm telling you, and even today was pretty insane. I've had I probably had 2-3 days a week because I had 5-6 hours of meetings back to back, which is very unnormal for me because usually it's not that crazy. But man, it's been crazy the last couple of weeks, more than I like to. But it's good crazy, and I'm okay with it. But we're getting more help, and this is my little tip for you. My best recent hire, and I don't even know if he'll listen to this, but I hired a VA to do graphics. That has been one of my best hires I've made lately. He helps me out with I make a graphic for every deal that I do now. Buy, sell, close. So if you guys watch on social media, I'm posting every deal we close, big or small. So I kind of implemented that recently, but it's been helping raise money easier.
Okay.
Because you're more organized and you act like a legit company here. I feel like I'm a legit company. We got deal decks and money decks and ROI decks and all this different stuff, and you have all the graphics behind it, and it all goes everywhere, and you get more credibility that way. But I don't know, it's been interesting.
Yeah, right. So the social media thing, I know you guys are pumping that out as well. So that's a significant part of my week in order to create that content. I write a lot on Twitter and LinkedIn and other things like that, and that's been an excellent way for me to meet investors and potentially people that are interested in the Landman Accelerator.
Tell me about your newsletter. I didn't know you did a newsletter. This is news to me.
Yeah. It's called the Land Letter, and it's every Friday morning, sent out 7 a.m. And man, it's been a really great success. I mean, we're growing really fast, and I just kind of break down a deal every week. I just talk about just general land stuff, a couple of tips, longer paragraph form tips, talking about how to build and scale a land business. Go through a quote every week, kind of a quote that's on top of mind, and then other land industry specific stuff. And people really like it.
Are you like writing by trade, or you just practice?
I think that I've grown to like writing.
Okay.
But I'm better just like talking to people.
Okay. Yeah, I did not like talking to people at first, and I after doing this for so long, I really enjoy it, but I hate writing.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't really need to, right? Like, it's just sort of, for me, it's been a way to crystallize my thoughts.
Yeah.
But you have so much content out there that's like not required. But Yeah,
I gotcha. What is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with? He's gonna pull up the newsletter. Give him a second.
No, I mean, I can pull up the newsletter. I can tell you the one I did this week. But one of the quotes is, and this is paraphrasing it, but this is by author of the 80-20 principle, Richard Koch. The majority of our results in our life are achieved through focusing on the important few versus the trivial many. So the most important things that you can do in your land business are, as we talked about, finding the right markets, training the right sales team. There's so many other things that you can focus on. Those things are so important. And so if I focus on those, I will be successful. I know I'll be successful. Everything else, it could be a cluster in my back end, but I can still make money and be successful if I just focus on those two things.
That's dope, man. I want to say congratulations being a father. Fatherhood changed my life. Have you seen a transition from your fatherhood experience recently? Oh, and I know you've been a father for the last year, but have you seen urgency recently?
Urgency is interesting. I've seen a greater responsibility.
Ooh, okay.
I've seen just being like, I have a greater responsibility to be the type of man that my son would be proud of. And that is so important to me. To raise him properly, he needs an example. He doesn't need to be disciplined through words. Of course, I will do that. But he needs to be raised with an example of this is what a good man is. And he's my father. And having him look up to me and be proud of the man that I am and him create an image of himself through me, not in a narcissistic way, but like in a very healthy, having a really healthy relationship with his father, emotionally healthy, psychologically healthy, physically healthy. I take all those things really seriously. And so it's just caused me to prioritize those things a little more.
It's amazing. Shout out to fatherhood for all the fathers out there. Shout out to fatherhood. It changed my life. And it sounds like it changed Clay's life. Kyle needs to have a baby next.
Get busy, Kyle. Get busy.
You guys, so we'll see. I'll think about it.
I didn't mean to put him on the spot, but hey, fatherhood, I think is such a great. It's an amazing experience that it really changes your thought pattern and your recognition of the things around you and how you want to influence that around you as well. And it's a really cool thing. For everybody here, where can we find you? Where can we find your education coming out? I have Helper Land Holdings.
Better place is land-man.io. Hepler Land Holdings. If you want to sell any land, I'm here. You can submit a form on that website. But land-man.io is my website, on which you can get more information on the Landman Accelerator, which is going to be an absolutely incredible premium course for that mid-market strategy. Right? If you want big market land ranches, you know the guy right here. He can help you out with that. But if you want to build a cash generating machine very quickly, the mid-market strategy is an incredible way to do that. And then on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Clay Hepler, those are the social medias that I engage in.
There you go. I love Twitter. Twitter's a dope place. I appreciate you creating and producing content in general through all your forms and formats. So I want to say thank you for that, because being a creator is what separates the creators from the consumers. And that's a little 2 cents for you, Clay, for being a creator. For everybody here, go like, share, subscribe. You know what to do. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys. Hey, if you have any deals you'd like to submit to the Hive Mind and our team, go to hivebc.io. It's actually the Hive Buyers Club. Submit your deals and we can hopefully dispel your deal for you. Have a great day.